It can be traumatic for some of us to hit the big something O, the big 3-0, the big 5-0. But when supermodel Cheryl Tiegs hit the big 4-0, it was a piece of cake. One she didn't eat, obviously, because if you look at her, she looks sensational. Her recent exposure in the swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated is proof positive of her enduring beauty. Cheryl Tiegs, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
What were you going to say? You were going to say something about the big 4-0.
Oh, well, no, I heard you muttering about 5-0, and I was going to say I haven't hit the 5-0 yet.
No, that was
yourself.
about that was me. Actually, I'm just a little over 30, but I lived a much tougher. I lived the life of you young models back for about 10 years. I was sort of, really on the go a lot.
Well, that did it, right?
And it just wiped me out, but I had a hell of a time. That book, Model, since I raised it, I mean, does it make you mad to read all that stuff about yourself and about other models that went out there and lived the high life?
Well, gee, what a way to start out.
Well, I just the book came into my mind.
We might as well get it out
of the way. Give you a
shot,
give you a chance to shoot at it.
The book, I haven't really read it. I've read a few excerpts here and there, and as far as I can tell from what I've read, it's really on the National Enquirer level, and not 100% accurate. So, and I think it's kind of a shame, because I think that the business is a big business, it's a serious business, and there's a lot of interesting things that go on. I mean, it is very glamorous. It does have a downside, but I wouldn't particularly focus on that myself. And he didn't really get the facts straight, so it's a shame. I looked at it, I put it down, and didn't give it a second thought. I've gone through times of reading articles that weren't true, or parts of books that weren't true, and I've cried and been upset over it. I don't know, I think that going past the big 4-0 or whatever has its pluses in that I know who I am, I know what I've done, I know what I've accomplished, I know that at night I can put my head on the pillow and feel at peace with myself. I'm not so sure he can, because he knows that a lot of it is not true. So.
Yeah, well, and some of it's true, though. I mean, look, there's a party life to some degree, I'm sure, but that's true in every profession, I think. I mean,
it's not only true in every profession, and definitely is in our business also, but it was also the times. This is the 90s, and it's a totally different era. People are much more health conscious, much more thinking long-term of their health and fitness and careers, longevity. At that time, surely you remember, people were thinking a little more of today and not thinking so much tomorrow. It was almost
sex, drugs, and rock and roll, except for guys like me who were stodgy even then.
Well, this was even before AIDS. I mean, AIDS was around,
right,
but nobody was really aware of it or conscious of it. I remember really starting to be aware of it in the early 80s. I mean, seriously. And so all of this was going on before that, and it was a much more free society, much more free thinking than it is today, when people are taking themselves much more seriously.
All right, let me back off the book and let's talk about something else. Swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated. Now, a lot of those young women appear to be about 19, 20, 22, 24. How come you're still the best-looking one? That's what I want to know.
Roger, I love you.
How'd you pull that off? There wasn't a lot of retouching. You look great.
There was no retouching. When I got the phone call, I thought, at the time I was 46 when I shot it, and I thought, for about 5 seconds, should I or shouldn't I do it? And there was really no question in my mind. I knew that on the other pages there'd be girls who were just out of their teens, and they've got skin that's different, and their bodies are different, their faces, there's no wrinkles, they're luscious and beautiful. But I feel good about myself. And another thing is that all these years people have said, yeah, right, you were born with it, you're lucky, hey, what about me? But they can't say that anymore, because at all these milestones, even at 20, 30, 40, you can choose to let yourself go, or you can really choose a path of really taking care of yourself, and they can no longer say, I was born with it, because I've really proven that it can be done.
How much maintenance do you do on this 46-year-old body?
Well, today I'm 47.
47 today?
To set the record straight.
Okay.
No, it's not my birthday today, but it's just now after
you are 47.
I'm 47, but
okay.
It's a day-to-day thing. I think
Do you
dieting.
put in an hour a day or 2 hours a day maintaining yourself?
I
or-
work out every day.
You do?
But I don't think that you have to. I would recommend 3 or 4 times a week because otherwise it might be discouraging for somebody. It just might be too much time, too hard to do.
3 or 4 times a year can be discouraging, I found.
Yeah. When I first started out, it was
Once a quarter
it
I
was
do it,
discouraging.
whether I want to or not.
But then also eating right, I think, is such a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
I never eat sweets, and I just gave it up at a certain
What's the
point in my
one
life.
thing you really love to eat that you don't eat very often?
I love to eat salty things, but it could be because I work out a lot. But I like popcorn, not because it's popcorn, because it's a vehicle for salt and butter and all that stuff. Again, I don't eat sweets, and I pretty much food combines. So, I mean, dieting is so easy. If I want to lose weight, I just have a piece of chicken and vegetables for lunch and exercise a little bit more, and it goes away.
How about these anorexic, bulimic models that, I mean, there's some sick things going on there, aren't they? They're throwing up, and they're not eating, and they're making themselves sick, and they're using drugs to keep their weight down. Isn't that true?
It's a disease across America, and I don't know if it's any more in the modeling business than anywhere else, possibly. But a lot of these girls, like Twiggy, for example, so she's not of today's era, but 100 years ago.
Right.
And Twiggy was a young waif and very, very thin. I know Twiggy today. She's a
waif.
full-bodied woman.
So much older wife.
No, but she's...
No, she's big. She's built like me.
She's filled out, and she's become... there are girls who are models today who exude a lot of health and fitness and working out. I mean, Cindy Crawford, for example. I mean, a lot of these girls have come out with fitness tapes, and they're very fit.
A lot of them are phony. A lot of them are not very good fitness tapes, though. I mean, they got bad reviews. I mean, they're sort of jumping around on the beach, but you don't get the feeling that they're really good ones. There are half a dozen good ones, but I don't know whether Cindy's is or not. But
I don't know about Cindy's or not. I did one that got very good reviews.
Yours did get good reviews.
Yeah, well, because I know a lot about the body and nutrition and fitness, and I worked on it very carefully for a couple of months before it was very time-consuming, which is probably
How
why.
important is sex to keeping shape? Is it good for you? I mean, they say it's very healthy. It keeps you from having a heart attack. It's really good. They say these guys are very happy. Look at these guys like, these 25-year-old guys aren't worried about heart attack.
I don't know.
I've been told that's very good exercise, isn't it?
I don't know. I can't believe you. That's the first time I've been asked that.
Really? Well, I just read it. I thought I'd ask. Look at her. Look at her. She's so shy. Where are you from, Minnesota?
I'm from Minnesota.
Oh, that's a very shy area up there. They never talked about sex. It's very Norwegian kind of...
I'm all German. My
Right.
my grandparents are all German farmers, so I come from very strong, very good stock.
Do you still have family there?
Yeah, my grandmother is still alive, living up there, and a lot of my uncles are working on the farm, and a very good, healthy stock, and I think it's influenced me the rest of my life. I'm not a city person. I don't live in a city now, and...
Where do you live, Connecticut or
No, I live on the West Coast.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's right, yeah.
I live on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Right on the water, which I think helps a lot. But I think it's important to sort of get a lot of stress out of your life, and extremely important. And I don't think people realize the damage it can do to you physically and emotionally. So that's how I do it, is to get outside of a city.
Are you a businesswoman? I know you were designing, doing some other things. What are you doing?
I still am designing. I had a 10-year contract with Sears. And at one point it was a $100 million a year company. So I built it up quite large, yeah, and Sears is a very complicated and political structure, so there are many reasons why it didn't last, but I still consider it a success story. And I still have footwear and eyewear and jewelry and watches and socks and hosiery and all of that. So it's kind of, I mean, that's pretty much what I do these days. And most of the companies are here in New York, so I come to New York, I work, I design, and then I go back and...
But if somebody wanted to hire Cheryl Tiegs for a personal appearance today, what would it cost?
Depends on the personal appearance. I mean,
you know,
cutting a ribbon at a grocery store,
yeah,
or a commercial.
No,
for Light and
not a
Lively.
commercial, not a national commercial or something, but just you show up as a celebrity. You know, a lot of celebrities do that.
It really depends, you know, it depends on the cause. It
Like
depends.
Jerry Ford's gotten rich showing up for $5 grand each, you know. It's 'cause 4 events a day.
Well, I would say that he should ask more than that.
Well, we know she gets more than that, and I know she does too. We're going to take a break on Straightforward. We'll be right back with more of Cheryl Tiegs. Do you have a room somewhere with all those covers? You must be on a... How many covers have you been on in your life?
I don't know how many covers I've been on. I've saved a lot of them, but I put them in a scrapbook, and I have almost no pictures or photographs of me hanging on the wall. That makes me uncomfortable. I do have an Andy Warhol portrait that he gave me, so I have that up, but other than that, I don't display, I don't really display it. But he did do also something on the cover of Time. I had it blown up, and he drew all over that, so it's sort of half Time magazine, half Andy Warhol. So
How have you changed over the years? You've been through a few marriages, a few ups and downs and disappointments like most people. You're a mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
How have you changed?
Well, even going through several marriages, I don't really consider a disappointment. I am actually grateful for each one, and I think I am who I am today because of it. I certainly don't consider it a failure. It was what I needed and wanted at the time, and learned a lot from each one. So right now in my life, the love of my life is my little boy who's 3.5 years old. And, you know, I'm teaching him all kinds of things like manners and the alphabet and all that. But really, he's teaching me, which of course I already knew, but every day teaches me that basic honesty and love and that straightforwardness that we sometimes, you know, very often we lose as we grow up.
That's why we named this show Straightforward, because we try to stay on that course. It's been a lifetime mission of mine to try to get right to the point with people, and sometimes it's offensive, but I think in the long run it's good for them.
How many people are honest, though, that you talk to, you know? I mean, that's one thing that's very important to me is honesty, and I don't find it very often.
I met a guy once in 1963 I thought was honest for about a week, and then that was it. I don't know. No, I think a lot of people are honest, but I think we have a culture of sort of shaving it a little bit and not being quite as direct as we should be. And
you know, the one thing, and I've never said this before because I never really realized it, but people say all the time, you know, would you have changed something in your career or in your life or whatever? And the only thing that I might have done differently was to trust people a little bit less. I just basically trust people, and if they say something, I kind of think that it's the truth because that's the way I am. It doesn't really occur to me to lie. So sometimes it's gotten me into trouble by trusting people, believing them.
did it make you cynical?
It hasn't. No, it hasn't yet. And I probably will always trust people. And it made me reclusive for a while. It made me withdraw from society quite a bit. I still had my career, which was very public, but I became very quiet.
Is it really possible for you to have a love relationship with a man? I mean, you say you needed the marriages at the time, you went through them, it wasn't a failure and so on. But more and more we're going through 3, 4, 5 marriages in a lifetime. Now, in the old days, you know, you died when you were 33 and it was cold in the country, so you sort of stayed together. It was the only place to get warm.
Right.
Even though probably a lot of those old folks hated each other, but nobody knew it at the time, and there was no divorce in those days. But is it possible in the limelight, the life you live, jetting coast to coast, being in business, being Cheryl Tiegs, the entity as well as the person, to have a real relationship?
It's definitely possible to have a real relationship. It has to be a little different, I think, especially when you first meet someone and the press is all wondering, you know, who you're seeing and what it's all about. Especially in the initial stages, I find that I have to be very, very private, more private than you'd ever believe, until you get solid ground as a couple, and then you can go out, because God knows, you know, what the press is going to say. So you have to have already a solid foundation, which puts a little bit of pressure on the relationship.
Do feminists, some feminists at least, resent you?
I don't know why they would resent me, and if they do, I think it's their problem, not mine. I think that I've represented...
I guarantee it's their problem. You ever seen them? It's their problem, all right.
I've never heard from any of them or seen anything in print. Even the Sports Illustrated, you know, I think, should be an inspiration.
Certainly is to me.
So, you know, not just for women, but for men. So to think of it any other way, I wouldn't understand, because I've certainly built up a career. I manipulated my career. I learned a lot. I went into business. I built up a company. Just because I have a pretty face, does that mean I shouldn't be able to do that? I wouldn't quite understand why. I mean, the modeling business is a big business, serious business. It taught me discipline, responsibility, how to manage my money. I mean, it taught me a lot. Yeah, you know, I think it's harder to stay on top than it is to rise to the top. I asked John McEnroe this many years ago, and his immediate response was it's harder to stay on top, and it is, because you can bob to the surface on a fluke, almost.
A lot of people can't handle that success the first time they hit the surface, and they never quite regain it again. I've known a lot of people who can't stay up there.
Yeah, we have to be smart to stay up there.
Yeah.
You have to have some intelligence to stay on the top.
All right, we're going to take a break here in a second. Then we have Prodigy here at America's Talking, where people can actually type in something to us, I guess. I'm still on crayon, so I don't know how that works. But they do have these little computers, and we have some computer questions from actual viewers that have come in, and we'll get to these right after these messages, so stay with us.
Oh, my God!
Hello, Johnny. Do you remember me?
No one ever forgets you, Lola. Dead men remember you.
What a great line. Have you done much acting?
No, that was actually my first. Well, I had done something on Saturday Night Live and All My Children, but playing myself. But this was the first time I played a different character. And, you know, in my life, I know what my capabilities are,
Right.
and I have a lot of high self-esteem. I know what I'm good at. And I never thought I could be an actress, and I was so insecure from the time I woke up in the morning until the time I left the set at night. I was a bundle of nerves.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, you know,
These
it's
professionals.
yeah, I mean, you walk in and they know what they're doing. They've done
Right.
it many times before. I learned my lines because I thought I'm not going to be the one who's going to, you know,
Blow it.
flub. Yeah. And then the next day they would walk in and hand me pink pages, and I'd say, "Oh, thank you very much." Oh, and
I
I'd
gotta
think, you
go
know,
relearn it.
got to remember what to forget and all that. And then I had to go to bed. Well, I got to go to bed with John Larroquette in front of an audience and all that. But that was fun.
Yeah.
And so that was my first acting debut. It was 10 pages of script, that's all. And it was kind of a lark, but it was fun.
Was it? Would you do it again?
I would do it again. I don't think at this stage of my life I'm going to veer off into a whole new career, but I would do it again. It was fun.
Okay, we got Prodigy questions here. Hi, Cheryl. This is from Kimla Wall, I think that's how you say the name. Hi, Cheryl. It's so great to see you again in the spotlight. My question is concerning the amount of money models are making today versus when you first started. Do you think putting a cap on models' earnings will become a reality? Should we have a cap, shouldn't we, or what?
Oh, there probably will be some kind of protest or cap. I know that they're already protesting what the girls make doing the runway shows.
15,000 a day or something, some of them, or what?
Yeah, and when I was modeling, I mean, it didn't even come near that. I mean, I think in many ways I was with, at the time paving the way, not just me alone, but, we were paving the way for all of a sudden.
You were the Joe DiMaggio of models. When Joe played for the Yankees, he was not making that much money. Today he'd be worth whatever, millions.
And nobody really knew who I was also. I mean, today everybody knows these girls by their first names. It took so long, that's why I was finally on the cover of Time magazine, because they'd seen my face for all those years and didn't really know who I was. And I think when I finally was on the cover of Time in 1978, I was making $2,500 a day, which was like, you know, out of this world. Nobody had ever done that before. So the thing is that when your face appears for a product and you sell so much more of that product than if another face appeared, then I think that's why you get paid so much money. But it could get out of hand.
Do you look this good like first thing in the morning when you get? I mean, when you go into when you first look in the old bathroom mirror, do you ever say, "Oh my God"?
Beautiful.
No, there's a new line, there's a wrinkle, there's a thing. Do you worry about that kind of stuff?
No, I don't. I don't over obsess about how I look. I'm always in competition with myself, though, and if I'm having a bad day, pretty much what I'll do is just step up the exercise or step up the diet routine or whatever, so that naturally makes me feel good, and it makes me feel good about myself. I mean, that's my medicine, really.
But you never like looked in the mirror and gone, you know.
Well, not quite like that, no.
I mean, I assume you haven't, because
I've looked in the mirror and thought, uh-oh, I better do something about it.
Really?
You know, yeah.
What's the most you ever weighed in your life?
One time in my early 20s, I got up to like 165, which is
that right?
pretty high. And that was because when I was a teenager, I ate whatever I wanted. I ate all day long, then my metabolism changed and my eating habits didn't. So that's when I really started. I had no choice. I had to learn about nutrition and portions and.
So do you? Oh wait, we got another Prodigy here. I got to take. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome to Prodigy. You don't know anything about computers either, do you?
No, but the way you're reading this is.
I've followed your career for many years. I am not a model, but I'm tall, 5'11". It's wonderful that you're still modeling. Come on, get to the point here. Older women can still be attractive. That's true. Older I get, the more I appreciate they're being used to products, arthritis.
Get to the point.
Yeah. How do you feel about aging? Is the question. This is the actual question. After I've read all this preliminary. Who wrote that? Let me see.
We just sort of.
Mallory Jones wrote that.
We just kind of went through that. But my father was, I've talked about this before, my father was a mortician when I was growing up. So.
You know how it's all going to come out in the end anyway.
Well,
right?
it always seemed very natural to me, you know, and I tell stories of being in the mortuary and doing my homework and roller skating around the place and everything. Yeah. And people go, oh, I mean, they're so aghast, or they say, oh, no, I don't understand their reaction, because for me, it's just, that's what happens, you know.
You don't think about death?
I think about death probably, occasionally, and I wonder what it'll be like. It'll probably just be very relaxing. But, you know, in an earthquake, I'm not afraid of earthquakes. And that has, I told that to a therapist once, and she said, oh my God, that's so interesting, because then you're really not afraid of death. I mean, I love the feeling of Mother Nature and you know, letting her know that really she's in control and we're not.
Right.
You know, so, and I just assume nothing's going to happen to me in an earthquake, so.
So you're not worried about it out there. A lot of people in California are moving back east. I read that Californians are coming back here they'd rather face the gunfire in Central Park than the earthquakes in California.
Well, I hear that New York is having a comeback in a sense, and
actually it is, under Rudy Giuliani, who's a friend of mine. I always say that, but it actually is. They don't have those guys cleaning your windows whether you want them or not.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And LA is going through a very hard time. I think if you go to a dinner party and there's 6, 8, 12 people, there's at least 1 or 2 or 3 people who have been held up with a gun to their head for their car or valuables or whatever. Literally, you cannot go to a dinner party and somebody
hasn't had them held up.
Yeah.
At the dinner party or on the way? Okay, we got to take a break. Oh, wait. We're coming back here, right? Okay. Thanks to Cheryl Tiegs. Thank you.